This week, the ghouls shift gears to work on a 1970 Rally Red CUDA. Mark and Tony examine and assess the value of a 1964 Plymouth Fury. And Christine gets her sensitive part sent off to be anodized.
We're coming back on the air.
Last week we were able to get the rest of the sheet metal replacement done on Christine. We were able to do the heat shrinking and tightening of the metal in preparation for the final body work. And so while we were out doing that, Justin was able to do the complete instrument panel, switch panel set radio, the dash assembly for our 71 CUDA. In addition to that, he was able to put in the side markers, the cool, sleek, low profile, monochromatic, painted the same color as the car, except in the case of the white billboard, they go white, and the taillights in this car. So that really did finish off an awful lot of the outside of the exterior lighting. And as much as Tony tortures me when he's out here, I do enjoy his visit. This particular case, I needed some help on the 1970 Dodge Challenger 318 automatic convertible car. It was nice to be able to go around that with him, look at it from his perspective, from a vendor standpoint, find out how much of the car was salvageable, have him agree with me that it wasn't restorable, and then put a dollar amount to all that. So while Tony and I are out looking at the 1964 Sport Fury, I asked Will to make sure that the rear end he just painted, this is a brand new Mosier replica Dana 60 354 rear end for our 70 CUDA tribute car, to make sure that it gets built out the rest of the way, that it gets the drums, the brakes, the rest of the pieces on the correct differential cover, leaf springs, really totally ready to go into the car. So that's what he's going to be working on.
Michael, meat sweats. You like that still?
No.
You don't?
Cornbread.
You
Prefer
like cornbread?
Yeah, over all of them.
It's going to be a productive week this week. Tony's out, so I know they're outside right now looking at the old Sports Fury. Alyssa's on vacation. So with everybody out of my hair, it's just me and my team. We're gonna get a lot done, and it's gonna be a good week. We still call him Michael Meat Sweats because he still eats a lot of meat and he sweats a lot. That's why he's got the gloves on. It's like a nervous habit, I think. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, well, you can't really rust primer.
Well, then why do you have gloves on?
I don't know. Safety precautions.
Safety from what?
Whatever. Nothing.
On a serious note, you do crack me up. Go get Ezra, have him go over with Doug and finish building out the rear end for Sipes' car, please and thank you. One of my biggest concerns is, you know, we're on a tight deadline again like normal when it comes to SEMA.
Why are you having me do it?
Because you're my helper. And you're supposed to help assist me in whatever I may need. So while trying to get that done and get that build looking perfect for Vegas, all of our attention may be over here, but we still have customer cars that need to get done and need to get done right. So it's hard from time to time to trying to manage both builds.
All right.
So if I gotta go poo,
whatever.
Wow, you disagree so quickly. Yeah, so anyways, please go do that. I like your gloves.
Yeah, thank you.
Whenever Tony comes out, there's usually a half a dozen new cars set in here. There's a half a dozen gone and a half a dozen new ones. One of the cars that I really don't know a lot about is our 1964 Plymouth Sport Fury. Super cool, super unique car, but he knows so much more about those. I'm excited to have him walk around it with me and point out some of the things that might be ultra rare on it, as well as some of the things that might make it right or wrong when it comes to a finished restoration. This is a new one came in.
Mark has a 64 Plymouth Sport Fury here, which is totally out of the wheelhouse what he normally has. It's a good, nice color combination, red, black interior, and it's a 3D3 4-speed, which is, you know, sort of rare and very comfortable engine to have and all. It's very stock and very complete, and really pretty good condition. The body really didn't have any rot to speak of on it. I know a lot of people always complain they always see the same stuff on the show. So this will be something totally different that it would appeal to different viewers too. That's out of your wheelhouse though.
It's way out of my wheelhouse. I took the car on because it's really complete and it's, I don't have to go fishing. I just have to restore it. I have to take it apart and put it back together.
They don't make much of anything.
Right. They make the wear stuff. They make seat kits and tops and stuff. But all that really hard to find stuff is there and it looks restorable. But I don't know anything about this car.
This is a cool car. It's very solid.
So I am curious about one thing. God, that's so cool, the tack on the console. That's just
Yep.
neat, right?
Sort of cool though, but it's hard. If you're driving the car and you're racing it, you got to look down at the tack there instead of looking forward. That's why they moved them up into the dash years later. And you know this tack, it's not just a standalone tack, it uses a sending unit.
Oh, that does. So did that sending unit create the
pulse.
pulse that it would
Right.
take to turn it? So how collectible and desirable do you think these things are?
It's got a lot going for it. It's a 383 4-speed red. I mean, it faded to orange. I believe it looks to be pretty original paint. I mean, I didn't go real hard on it, but
Yeah. When you're talking about some of the trim and ornamentation on Christine, there probably are 4 different treatments. You have the chrome, which you see in the way of the bumpers. They're a steel that have been chromed. When it comes to a lot of the moldings on, especially the grille work, especially that, it's an aluminum from the factory, but then it's anodized.
My name's Will Burke. I work at Anodized Solutions. I've been here for 4 years coming this month. I think when I started, we were at 5 employees, and it just grew really fast from there. 72 employees is where we're at right now. So yeah, we've definitely grown since we started, which is a good thing. We anodize an assortment of aluminum products. We have various type 2 and type 3 processes we do. You grow an oxide layer, it goes into the material as well as it grows on the surface, and it creates a porous structure on the aluminum itself, but it's created by the aluminum. It just essentially turns it back into oxide. Then from there, now you have your anodized layer. You take it to either a die or you seal it as is. So whatever the customer's preference is or whatever the part process is. Ano itself actually absorbs dye into the pour. And then from there you seal it in. So you essentially get the dye trapped in the pour, and then now you close the pour over top of it. Anodizing is transparent, so whatever you have in there you can see into. So if you have a shinier surface underneath the ano, you can actually see. That's why it's bright coming out of ano as well.
Thing is this is 50-year-old aluminum that's been exposed to the elements. So it has to come completely apart like it did when it first started life. Then every single piece and component has to be polished, has to be stripped of its existing anodizing, then it has to be polished to a mirror finish and then sent up north to be re-anodized. If you don't do it that way, you're not doing it correct, you're not doing it OEM.
So right now I have Doug and Ezra over there in the assembly shop building out Sipes' rear end for his CUDA.
Well, you know, I grew up with Doug. Our strategies on mechanical are pretty similar. We're both very cautious. He's very tactical. He's very pragmatic. He takes his time. He doesn't make mistakes, but he is slow at it. Well, one of the key factors in getting the 70 CUDA Tribute car moved down to the ground, it's really important that that Dana rear end gets put together, because that's the key part of the back half of the car. It's going to look silly with 2 front tires on it and dragging the rest outside the bin pack lift. So Mopar was one of the first companies to get involved in the unibody cars. So one of the things they did in 1970 was they actually put a rollover safety bar. It doesn't look like a roll bar. You wouldn't even know it's there if you had the headliner out, but it is there, and it's designed to keep that roof from coming in and smashing your brains all over the place. If you were rolled over or something fell on the roof of your car, it helps that reinforcement. Now there are also some other things, unique things about the 70 CUDA that it got in the way of safety features. If you think you know what they are, I would encourage you to stay tuned. Later in the show, we'll reveal exactly what that is. You might want to get your notepad out and make some notes on this stuff, because there's a lot. Stuff I got floating around up here that I'm going to share with you. Feliz Navidad. Looking at the Fury right now with Tony, again, it's not my field of expertise, so there are things on it that I'm looking for feedback to make sure I don't order a bunch of parts based on the parts that are on the car to find out they were second-day add-ons. I would have a pretty good feeling of what that should be, but he really is the expert in this area. Being this is a 383 car, this car could have been, am I right, a slant 6? Was this the years, this is right before you could or couldn't get certain things, like you couldn't.
No, this year you could have gotten a max wedge in this.
A max wedge in this car
Yeah.
would have been available.
They didn't really have a performance car until '67 with the GTX and the RT, but you could get the performance engine in a car. So a 383 4-barrel, 4-speed with a dual-point distributor. It's a performance car because of the engine option. After that, you could go to the 426 Street Wedge, which is a bigger 413 or a smaller 440, basically the same engine with a 4-barrel. And then above that, you got the Max Wedge, which was really more like a race motor.
So the nastiest thing you
318.
could have gotten this was a Max Wedge engine.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would have been a 426 Max Wedge.
Yeah.
What was the year for the 413 Max Wedge?
62 only.
Let's see if I can get this hood up.
See the engine call out on the...
I did, I love it.
The hood emblem on the 64 Plymouth is cool. It has an engine call out on it. It had a little blank space where a aluminum foil or a foil, really like an aluminum decal, went in with the engine size. They're sort of tough to come by because they got discarded or broken off. They're easy to break off throughout the years. They make the new decals for them, but they don't make the emblem.
What do you think the AB is?
A vendor code?
Could be, yeah, internal. But there's your whole Mopar riding. That's cool.
383 4-speed, you got the dual-point
Dual
distributor.
point. Would a 383 automatic have been dual point in 1964 with an automatic? Yes or no?
I think a 4-barrel would have been. I think a 4-barrel would have been.
Let's check them. Original carburetor. Oh, this is where
Yeah.
Tony just shines.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
looking at it, it seems like it is, but
That's an old AFB. It's
what would you call the number if you had to?
If I had to guess, 3858,
I wouldn't have a clue, but it looks like 3811.
3811. Okay.
I wouldn't even have the
Yeah.
38 right, yeah. So in the case of the 1964 Sport Fury convertible 383 high-performance 4-speed, there were only 3,858 of those cars made.
See how the voltage regulator is over here?
Yeah.
Now on a Max Wedge car, because the carburetors are staggered, okay? The intake comes back far here.
So it would be in
So they
the
moved it
way.
over here.
So it's definitely rare. You definitely aren't going to go to every car show in town and find one. It's not the rarest one. It's not one of 8 like our 71, but it's a darn rare car. These holes are made at the assembly line, so they wouldn't be there on a real Max. These two holes would not be there on a Max.
Yes, they
Wedge
would.
car. They would.
They're there, and then they added the other, because all the firewalls are made with those 2 holes.
So again, knowing exactly what should be on there is more important than ever, and my ability just to Google something or look at a picture, there's probably not very many of those cars to compare to out there. Okay.
They added the other 2 on Max Wedge
So if
cars.
you were out looking in a junkyard and you came across the firewall, and that would be one of the pieces of evidence that you could go with. Is there any other changes?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Max Wedge doesn't have a heater, right?
Oh sure, yeah.
I thought those were heater, or
Nope.
the RO cars. Is it?
Right, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm off a
Because they
little
were the
bit.
race cars.
Windshield washer jug is so different. It looks like something for Christine. Looks like something
Yep.
for our 58.
Yeah, Jiffy
What are those?
Jet.
What is it?
Jiffy Jet. The Christine one's probably long like this, and this one's more square.
A Jiffy Jet.
Yeah. On the 64 and older cars, they didn't have a plastic washer bottle like the newer cars have that we're used to. They had a bag. What Chrysler called them, or the company they got them from, was Jiffy Jet bag.
So it literally hung on that ridiculous looking bracket?
Yep. And not all cars had them. It was an option to get a washer.
Okay, look, I admit, I didn't know the Jiffy Jet. You want to ask me, you know, what color interior goes with this color casket? I can tell you that because I was down picking those out with Mom, you know, to bury my father in. But I didn't get the opportunity to run around and look at all the different cool things, and I didn't have a Jiffy Jet, okay? I had Osgood Slaughter, and obviously it's a foot pump.
Right. Yep. No, it's not, Mark.
Oh, look at there. Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah.
All right, I see.
Some of them were, I've seen manual foot pumps. That car there was obviously, it had the motor, electric motor. You know, you'd hit the button in the middle of the wiper switch, and it would send a single over and would power the pump, and it would, you know, put the washer fluid on the windshield. See the stacks on the valve cover? On the later cars you used to, there's a bulge here.
There's no embossing there.
Yeah, it's just on the flat cover.
Original oil cap, you believe? Do you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So far, so good. The car really is very original, which the owner said that it was, and it appeared that way. But having Tony out here, it's a gift because I don't know those things off the top of my head. That's the good news. The bad news is I got a lot of research to do because even things that Tony may not know, I'm going to have to find out. We're going to have to get back in the original parts books and make sure we have all the right stuff, the right colors, the right markings. There's a lot still to it. So Will and I right now are in the reference room, and we're about to talk about the paint system that we use and why we select certain paints. We've had a lot of people on our social media ask us questions. I wanted the pro in here. I'm just kind of here more as, yeah. I'm just here to support him. We'll answer the Q&As the best that we can. All right. So People ask about the solid color cars, like our 1970 Barracuda tribute car that you just finished painting.
FE5 Rally Red.
FE5 Rally Red, and if it was a Dodge,
Bright red.
cue cards are over there. Bright
It's not
red.
a cue card, it's a computer.
Is that car a solid color car or is it a metallic base car?
Well, it's red, it's solid.
It's a solid, okay. What I'd like to know is what type of paint did you paint it with? The brand and the product.
PPG single stage. Urethane.
Which is called Concept.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason we do it with that and not a base coat clear coat is?
Saves the customer money and it gets done twice as quick and it lasts longer. And the finished product on a single stage, the shine that it does, especially on a red, is really a bright, vibrant color.
He's right on all those counts. If you go back and you look at the cars that we've done in the past, whether it was the 72 Charger or the Alpine White 1970 Plymouth Superbird, you look at those and they look 10 times better than they ever did at the factory. Well, we're sorry. But today's products allow us to be able to do that. And so on our 1970 Plymouth Barracuda Tribute Car 446 barrel 4-speed Dana Super Track Pack FE5 Rally Red with a black top, black interior. That car is painted in PPG's Deltron Concept single stage urethane paint.
Yep.
Every panel has the exact same number of coats on it.
That's why it matches and looks
It
good.
has been wet sanded and buffed and looks perfect. Now,
So we're good.
if you had the same paint code, FE5, Foxtrot Echo 5, in a Dodge Challenger, what is that paint code called?
I think we're getting off topic.
I don't think we are.
I
Go
think
on.
we are.
No, it's okay.
I can call Tony.
You can call anybody you want, but why don't you answer the question right now?
I'm not comfortable doing it because we didn't discuss
Well,
this
we've ruled
prior.
out Rally Red because that's what Plymouth called it.
Right.
What would you just take a wild guess at what Dodge might have called it? Red? He's half right. Bright red. That's what Dodge called it.
Bright red or rally red?
Yeah.
It's right there.
Anyway, you did much better, much more.
Okay,
You
I
didn't
hate
cuss,
doing, I
you
don't
didn't-
like doing these
It's okay.
at all. Thanks for the question. If you have any future questions, just jump on Twitter or Instagram. Do you have a Snapchat?
Facebook.
I was good there.
Oh, sorry. No, I don't have a chat. I don't know what that is.
Any social media platform, and we'll make sure we get them answered.
And maybe next time you just do this by yourself, right? So Tony and I are making great progress on documenting the 64 Fury. While that's going on, everybody's doing something. Doug and Ezra are over working on the Dana rear end. This is the replica Dana rear end from Mosier Engineering. Now, this is an accurate, right down to the 3-bolt pinion snubber, replica of the original. It's very easy to put together from here because we don't have to set up the gears and the locker and all that. All that's already done at the factory. We've just got to put the brake drums on it, make sure they're the right brake drums, because if you have disc brakes in the front, they should be 10-inch, backing plates in the back, and then put it together, plumb it out, mark it, make sure that everything works like it's supposed to. Then it can go in the car. It's not hard, it's just tedious. Well, we have quite a few cars that have to be done. We're way overdue on all of our cars. It's just one of the bad sides of growing so fast is that you can get behind. We won't compromise our quality, we just end up compromising our timeline. So the red CUDA tribute car, it's a beautiful little car. It wasn't when it came here. Had a lot of bad work done to it. We had to fix a lot of stuff on it. But over time, it's become a really, really nice little car, so we have to finish it out the same way. It's very important that everything is done right, regardless of how either over budget or over time I am. I still, at the end of the day, it has to be right. We have that car with a 71 CUDA 340 3-speed. We have the comeback, you know, the 70 Coronet that came back. We have the 69 GTX. We just have a lot of cars that are way overdue. And so that stress, on top of the stress of having to have the car done in time for SEMA, makes me really wonder what I was thinking, because I shouldn't even be doing anything except working on those cars. So there, I said it. Now you don't have to go on social media and say it. Make you happy.
Got the final paint done, cut and buffed, washed, looks gorgeous. Got the body over there for assembly, and then, kind of like I do on other cars, I got the hood, deck lid, front valance, rear valance painted. All those parts are over there. So at this point, we can go ahead and start putting the car together and getting the assembly done.
It's concerning when you're over time on a car and it should already be in the assembly shop being put together and it's just now coming into it. Because there's still a million unknowns there too. yeah, I wish the car was already over there and halfway put together. I'd sure feel a lot better about having the car done on time and still being able to make our SEMA deadlines. And so yeah, all of that adds up to the stress levels that go on around here, which add up to why I want to make sure that, you know, Doug and his helper over there get that thing done, get that rear end put together and get it ready to take wheels on it. Because we've got to have those on it to be able to roll the car forward so we can start doing some of the things I mentioned. So Tony and I are going to take a break from the Fury. We've made a lot of ground up on this thing. I've really learned a lot. It's great having him here. But we're going to take a break and go over and work with Doug a little bit. He's getting ready to fire up the engine for Sipes 1970 CUDA. This is a 446 barrel. It's a date-coded engine. Even though it is a tribute car, we try to do everything correct. One of the correct things we want to do is make sure it runs and doesn't puke oil all over the place. So a lot of our drivetrains end up getting built out long before the car gets over here. This engine and transmission has been put together for quite a while, I think over a year and a half. We built the engine, put it completely together here. Our friends over at Passon Performance did the transmission for it, so it's a correct date-coded, really nice transmission. So the engines that we do here, we send the short blocks out and have them built at a local machine shop that we've been working with forever, that do a phenomenal job. Then it comes here, we put the cylinder heads, trim it out, get all of the rest of it built out, the long block, detail it to where it looks like it's supposed to look. But starting it up, even though everything is new, still has the possibility of things blowing up. For example, not literally, but well, that could happen too. You could have a freeze plug leak, you could have a cylinder head leak, you could have an oil leak drip, you could have no oil pressure. It could have all kinds of problems. So making sure that that's okay and hoping and praying that it is, because we really don't have a whole lot of time to go back and redo half of that stuff. So yeah, there's that added little bit of tension and stress and concern, at least at my level. Okay. Absolutely. I'm here to help. For those of you who wonder why the paint burns off the exhaust manifolds, well, all I can tell you is the exhaust manifolds get up to around 400, 500 degrees. Paint really isn't designed to stay up to that, so it will, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll burn off. That's what I'm getting at. It'll burn off. And why did we paint them? Because Walter P. Chrysler painted them. So now that the engine's out of the woods, so to speak, it's not leaking and puking, it runs really well, that gets us so much closer to be able to put the drivetrain in this car. Again, one of our biggest goals right now is to get that drivetrain in it, get the wheels and tires on it, get that thing rolled forward so we can do all of the final button up. So yes, that is a huge relief knowing that engine is in good shape. So one of the more frequently asked questions I get, especially at car shows, is why did a Plymouth Barracuda have this hood, another one had that hood, and then there's a third hood? I wanted to just clarify what cars got what hoods and what hoods were available and why. So let's just start with like the epitome of them all, the 1970 Hemi CUDA. Hemi CUDA was a complete package car. That was called a Hemi CUDA. It was a standalone package car. Mandatory was a cold air induction hood, the shaker. The sales code was in like November '96. Didn't cost any extra on a Hemi CUDA because it was standard. That's one hood. If you had an AAR CUDA, you would have had a cold air induction hood, but it was made of fiberglass. The sales code was November '94. If you had just a Barracuda, plain old-fashioned hamburger Barracuda 318 automatic, like I go back to Kimberly Cook's little 70 Barracuda that we did, it has a flat hood. That's the standard hood on the non-CUDA car. But if you had a real BS23, BS27 car, a CUDA, you would have what I call the Raisin Bran hood. J54, Juliet 54, that's the sport hood. Now, just to toss a couple things at you here. The bubble on the shaker on all the CUDAs was argent silver, except for one. If you had an FE5 Rally Red CUDA and an elastomeric front and rear bumper A22 sales code, you got a red shaker. Now, that means the bubble itself was red. The interesting thing here is there's nothing definitive about could I get an FE5 Rally Red 70 CUDA and just chrome outside mirrors, not part of that elastomeric group, regular bumpers, but still get the red bubble? We don't know the answer to that for sure. There's probably some literature in the form of a technical service bulletin that might explain that. Bottom line, 4 different hoods: the flat hood, the sport hood, the AAR hood, and the shaker. But if you had a shaker and you didn't have a red car, I guarantee you it left the factory in Argent Silver. So just a quick overview. You had 4 hoods. A standard hood on the non-CUDA cars was flat. The sport hood, J54, like on this car, that was standard on the CUDAs. If you had an AAR, you had a fiberglass hood that was coated N94, and then N96 was your shaker. So if you had a 70 CUDA that was N96 coated and it wasn't a red car, it was an Argent bubble, guaranteed. So if you have any more questions, go to any of our social media outlets, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, ask your questions. We're going to try to knock them out every week for you. So right before I go out with Tony and go over the rest of the Fury, we're almost done on that car, I want to work with Doug on installing the drivetrain in the CUDA. It's just something that if we can get done now, while we're both kind of at a point where we have the time and nobody's pressuring us, we can get the rear end and the drivetrain in it, get the torsion bars in it, and get it floating around on its own suspension. That'll be a nice benchmark to hit. We're getting a little ahead of schedule right now. We haven't gotten our stuff in from inline tube yet, so you'll see some things on it as we're putting it together you think normally we would have in place. We just have to get this in and have to get the wheels on it, have to get it down for one reason. Larry, the upholstery guy, is coming out tomorrow to install the vinyl top, and he can't do it on the hoist. So that's why we're jumping the gun. So while the process that we do in installing the drivetrain is not exact to the assembly line, it's very close. Okay, I think around there we can go ahead and set right there. But they had these large, almost like jaws, claws, that came down and picked the cars up by the rockers.
Nice.
Gold, Jerry, gold!
All right.
And then set it down and move the engine and the drivetrain up into position. So they had jigs going up and they had a jig coming down. Yeah. Okay. You got your shackles handy?
Yes, sir.
Whereas when we were kids, or most people at home, especially GM guys, Ford guys, they still will stuff an engine down through the engine compartment, take the hood off of it. We did it as kids too. Let's lower that bad boy down and see if we can put some shackles in. Okay, up in the air. Move to the front, get the engine transmission loaded in the car. Let's get it on.
All right.
The part of the assembly that I always find to be the most taxing as far as emotionally is just the fact that you can scratch something. Well, what are you doing, you ape?
Oh, ape?
Right. Sorry.
You called me an ape.
Didn't mean to insult the ape population out there.
Look
My
what you
bad.
did.
In an RB engine, the 440s, they're wide. They're so wide that when the exhaust manifolds are on there, it's mounted on the K-member, and the power steering gear is on there, you actually have to shift it a little bit as it comes up in there to favor clearance past the frame rail and the shock tower, and then even it out. Boy, that's about the slickest we've done one so far.
I don't understand it. I'm getting
You're
nervous.
waiting for something to go wrong, and it
Yeah.
isn't. So if you don't do that, if you don't have people watching all the different intersections where you can have a problem, looking good?
Man, yeah.
Boy, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Did that just land on there? And a lot of times when people do scratch and dent and ding, they don't always just come up and tell you. So I have to find it at the final QC, like the situation with our 1970 Coronet. You know, if somebody along the line would have mentioned any of those things that happened, we could have addressed it. Well, we're doing better now with that.
Sure did.
That's insane. Haven't had that happen.
Microvision.
I don't think I've had that one happen just yet.
Okay, I think I can.
I almost have hand tightened these entire
Yeah.
bolts. That is just crazy.
We
isn't
have.
it?
Nothing like apes, right?
Don't you have a selfie with you and Charlton Heston together?
What? I don't think so. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I love it, man. I like it. That was pretty nice, Mark.
So we have the suspension in place on the car, all front K-member engine, transmission, rear end, drive shaft, everything is in. I'm just going to tighten them down. So Doug is mounting up brand new BF Goodrich TA radials to go on the 15.7 rallies. He's going to do that while I wrap up the rest of the car, and hopefully with any luck we'll have this thing rolling shortly.
Now that the rear end's built out, Doug can head over to the coats machine, get the tires and wheels mounted, get all of this installed, and make it a rolling car.
Hey, what's happening?
Tony, how you been, buddy?
Good to see
Been
you.
a long time.
Yeah.
What's
yeah,
it been, about a year?
Exactly, yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. You've been doing good on the show. I like what I say.
I have?
Especially when you're away from Mark. When you're away from Mark, you have great segments. When you're with Mark, I don't know, but
Kind of tears me up, don't he? Yeah.
and I think he shut down more.
I don't know if he's my friend or my enemy, right?
Frenemy.
Frenemy.
So what you up to?
Got to mount this tire for,
It's mounted.
mount it?
It's mounted.
Mount the tire.
I'm not trying to make you feel like this. See what you can balance
just mounting up, or balancing a wheel and tire. Okay?
You know, I used to do this stuff a long time ago with the same stuff, Coates machines.
You did?
Back then.
Seriously?
Yep, they had a Coates 2020. I'm talking 30 years ago or so. Then the big thing was when they came out with a 4040. Yeah, when they came out with the digital balancers, about when I stopped doing it a lot.
It's nice to have high-end equipment like coats or bin pack. I mean, all of our vendors are all top of the line, and it really does little things you don't think about. 20 years ago we didn't have that we have now. We can do everything here in-house, and it just speeds the process up, and it keeps the car here until the car's done. So we don't have to send it out for anything.
Sounded good. So now we rotate till this side, the outside, reads
Okay.
5, and there's the top of that one. So I'm going to put a 1.25 ounces on this one.
Modern technology,
First
man.
try, man.
You can't beat it, boy. Good job,
Thank
man.
you, Tony. It's good to see you, man.
You too.
We gotta do lunch sometime.
Yeah.
You knew that, didn't you, Corn?
Not bad, huh, Mark?
Not bad, Dougie. Not bad at all. Cornelius.
What? Who are you talking to?
You want to put the wheels and tires on?
Yeah, I do.
Great.
Let's do it. You make that look easy, Mark.
There you are, my friend. Cornelius. What was the deal with the Statue of Liberty at the end?
What? Statue of Liberty, huh? Talking about King Kong?
King Kong is not in Planet of the Apes.
Wasn't he a gorilla?
No. Well, he might have been a gorilla, but those are apes, man.
What's the difference?
Well, did you see Cornelius at the top of the Empire State Building swatting at airplanes? No.
I don't think he was a bad guy, Cornelius. Do
Nobody
you?
said he was a bad guy. I just don't know why you're mixing your movies together. Next thing you have Jurassic Park, you're gonna have a T-Rex climbing the Empire State Building.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
Why?
We'll talk to Steven Spielberg and see if it's a problem. You want to throw Jaws in there too?
Yes.
That'd be funny?
Yeah.
I'll see a shark, a land
Swimming
shark
up to
climb
the top,
of
right?
it. Yeah.
Want to roll it?
Let's roll it. Let's set it down, roll it forward. Larry will be in first thing in the morning, flizzing plasm flazoo. Oh, nothing like a 4406 Beeble. Oh, that's pretty in there. Got dusty since I wiped it down. How's that possible? I think Will needs to get in there and cut and buff it. Tell you something else Will needs to do. So on 70 E-bodies, unless the car was painted black, the upper cowl panel gets a blackout on it. It has a soft edge right here where it rolls from the horizontal to the vertical plane, and this is an organosol black up here. The time to do that would be when the hood's off,
Yeah.
when the engine's out.
Uh-huh.
So Will's penance for his puppet show is he's gonna take that hood off, deal with the engine, because it's not coming back out again, and get in there and paint that. What do you think? That a good penance for his puppet show?
He'll probably say it's my fault.
So earlier I mentioned that the 1970 Barracuda had some safety features. I asked you if you knew exactly what the other safety features were. They had side intrusion bars in the doors. The windshield header and pillars were boxed in for extra strength. The front unibody on it, the front aprons, the frame rails, the core support, they are all made of steel. 18 gauge steel, except the frame rails are thicker than that, and they're spot welded together. There are reinforcements in the floor section that are actually a heavier metal than the 18 gauge floor. They added diagonal braces at the package tray to floor section. And even though those really do sound like a lot of cool safety features, compared to today, it's archaic. Back in the day, those features very easily could have saved somebody's life. So I'm at a point now where I'm ready to call Brian, the owner of the Challenger convertible. I already sent him the text and the pictures. He wants me to give him a call, find out what he wants to do on it. He really doesn't have too many choices as to what he may want to do. Earlier, Tony and I were able to go over the Challenger for Brian. This is a 73 18 convertible car. He had owned it many years ago, sold it, and then got it back. We've had discussions about the car. We knew it was rough. So we know what we're talking about. What I have to do is call him up and say, what do you want to do? Here's your options. Yeah, the way I looked at it, you had like maybe 3 choices, and none of them were great choices. You know, if you want to pay 5 times what the car's worth when it's done to restore it, I'll do it, but I also have to extend the time, and I know you don't want to do that. I can ship the car back to you and do whatever you want with it. Just make a planter into it, or find somebody that wants to do it. Or I can send it back to you and you can part it out yourself and sell parts off like on eBay or take them to swap meets. The other thing is I can buy the parts too, and I'll just let them know I'm not looking to steal any parts. If I go through that car from front to back, I'm going to give you a list of all the parts that are salvageable, how much they're worth, how much I want to pay for them, and how much I'll retail them for. So I'm just going to say if that's a $200 set of moldings, I'm going to give you $150 for it. And then you can just say, yes, go ahead and write me a check, or I want to put it on eBay. Is that fair? Well, Tony's idea that we should just ship it back to him, that would be in his best interest, he could be right. He really could. So what do you want to do? So he could technically do a little bit better and get his money back quicker that way. But I'll give him that option. I'm just not going to offer an opinion. Yeah. Your wife leave you yet? Yep. I'll text you. Bye. She did leave him. I forgot about that. Office BBC. So I got a chance to make my phone call. Tony and I can go out and finish up on the 64 Sport Fury. Just a few little items left to go over on it, so I want to get that before the sun goes down.
Yeah, I think you're right about the repaint.
I would bet the...
But you know, it's funny, I think those runs are original, but the tape line,
off and
they taped above it, and that's where the hard line is you saw.
The only thing that ever really concerns me on the older cars is they have a lot of pot metal. Wow. So this is the original red, whatever that is.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty car.
It is.
It's a pretty car done.
But nobody is making any of those pieces for the 64 Fury. So we have to send them out and have them chromed. That is what worries me, because when they come back, they may not look a whole lot better. They may be shiny, but they may be full of pock marks and pinholes from being 60 years old in this particular case and made out of pot metal.
This would be a gorgeous car done though.
Yeah.
It looks sort of funky with the top up, because the top line doesn't hold the
It doesn't hold
style,
the sportiness of the car.
but with the top down.
So this block-off plate right here, the reason this is here with the Plymouth insignia is because if this wasn't automatic in 64, it'd be a push button.
Well, not on the Sport Fury because it'd be on the floor, but every other model, that's where the automatic push buttons would be. On the early B-body cars, the dash changed every year. And the 64 Plymouth has a nice dash. It's 4 round gauges, big round gauge holes, easy to read. Because this car was a stick, there's a plate on the left end of the dash that has the Plymouth rocket emblem on it, and that's where push buttons would be. So if it was a car, all Sport Furies got a console, whether it was automatic or 4-speed. But if you backed it up to a Fury model or a Belvedere or Savoy, it was an automatic, that's where the push buttons would go.
So you know what, I'm really not concerned about the car as much as I was in the beginning, because everything that's supposed to be on the car, we can recondition. Other than, like I said, the pot metal is tough to re-chrome. But I'm very optimistic that we can put the car back together, just like I was when I talked to the guy, and make it a 100% car, make it right the way it should be, better than it ever was from the factory. So this is pretty unique that would be there.
Right, only a well, any stick car would have gotten it. But
That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's a little bit odd.
So I look forward to jumping into the car because it is a 64. It's outside of my wheelhouse. It's going to make me learn a little bit more. Steering wheel's cool. A little bit like Christine. It has this textured center section here. And then the harder, rigid plastic, and it's got the Plymouth emblem in the middle of it.
That's sort of the last of the old school steering wheels, I'd call it.
And the console, that's such an intricate console.
That was a very nice center console in those cars. The storage area wasn't really that big, but it was just a lot of chrome on it. When that car gets redone, you'll see a lot of chrome on the top of it.
You making those, I assume?
No.
For the 3 people that need one?
No, it's not. The console itself is not hard. It's all the trim.
Yeah.
And there's a piece in the back that's on the back part of the console, that upholstered area.
Yeah.
That's always a pain.
Well, technically, by definition, it's not a muscle car. I think that it is, but like I said, that real term came in a little bit later. Seats are in, considering they're, 55 years old, they're healthy. What I mean is, you can tell that's a well-built seat. It is a 383 high performance. It is a 4-speed. It's a Sport Fury, 2-door, and it's convertible. When you think of cars like that, that's the thing, is it's not really a cubic dollar car like a...
No.
A car as rare and nice as this in a 70, it'd be a big dollar car, but... So this is a really neat car. I mean, I think from the standpoint of unusual, there really isn't anything on the lot that's quite as unusual as that car. And there's some neat things about the car that I am looking forward to jumping into.
Well, what would it be, a 70 satellite convertible? Because there's no it's not they didn't have performance, or a sports satellite convertible?
With a 383 HP in it.
Right,
I guess, yeah, it wasn't, you would have had to go into the max to get
then you're talking
real
dollars.
performance stuff.
Even the 426 4-barrel would have boosted up somewhat.
So yeah, I'm excited to do the car for the guy, mostly just to be able to hand it back to him and say, here's your baby. So it was really fun having Tony out and going over the Fury. I learned quite a bit of stuff. This particular car, the things that I wasn't sure of, a lot of the ornamentation and a lot of the stuff on the inside of the car that I would look at and it seemed original, it was nice to have him reassure me that it was original and that it was restorable stuff. So it was fun to go over the car with somebody that knows the cars, but also see the things that we don't got to run out and go buy. All we got to do is recondition them. I think once we get the 64 Fury disassembled, get the body and paint work done on it, because we can do that without any extra help. But when it comes to ordering the parts and when it comes to making sure that things are right on it, I'll be leaning on Tony. Yeah, he's knowledgeable. He has a lot of the information right there at his fingertips if he wants to look it up for me, and he's always been really good about that. So I'm optimistic that the car will come out really nice. Most cars that start nice end really nice too, and they usually go through the process a lot quicker. Made a lot of progress on our Red Barracuda Tribute car. So we got the drivetrain in it, the 446 barrel, date-coded correct engine and transmission installed in it with the wheels, tires, and suspension. We got the rear axle installed in it with the wheels and the tires. So that car, in just a matter of a few days, really went from an empty shell coming out of the paint shop to a rolling vehicle that we can now jump on full force and get wrapped up. And while I may seem a little bit happy about this week, I am still concerned about the Christine project. There's a lot to get done in a short period of time, but having all that aluminum cleaned, inventoried, and sent off to sublet so that the polishing and the anodizing can get done, that's a major step. 30 days left, right? 30 days. Wasn't there a movie about that, 30 days? 30 Days a Night or something about vampires or something? Yeah.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah, Sam Raimi. His last name's Raimi?
Raimi.
Oh, Rami. I thought he said Ram me.